our information for our PLC is incorporated in this part that's due. And I guess I'm confused about the due date as well, because the assignment sheet, it says it's due week 3, but then it says it's due by the 9th at 9 p.m.
Yeah, we saw that. I need to go back in there that's on the 9th is that in the syllabus?
Yes.
I think that's a typo in the syllabus. It would need to be, it would be week 3.
Okay. So it says it's due week 3. So back to the narrative. So in the narrative, the first part of the narrative you said was our school demographic quantitative information. And the second half of the narrative would be us going into our PLC information.
Yes. Yeah. In other words, just as your introduction, when you first start your task 1, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your school. Nothing. I mean, it's no research. It's just you've got what your student population is, what your teaching population is, how many students, your breakdown of your different subgroups, and what have you. Just something, just sort of tell us who you are. And then that's a good way of opening up, and then it will flow. You can tie it into making it flow into research on PLC, where it'll kind of flow together pretty good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was just wanting to make sure that we shouldn't have already created our PLCs yet. I mean, like getting the people that's supposed to be in there and that sort of thing.
If you haven't, go ahead and be working on that.
Okay.
And because you can go ahead, I mean, you can go ahead and do that now, and that's completely up to your principal as well, your leadership. But you can go ahead and do that now and be working with your PLC. And as Dr. Bullis was saying earlier, you can be kind of taking notes and taking minutes of what you're doing now, and then you'll incorporate that once you get into task 2 with as you start working through your PLC. And that's basically just being a narrative of what you're doing in your PLC.
So I'm sorry, I have a lot of questions, but
no, that's good. That's good.
So should we have an idea of what we are focusing on for our PLC before we choose the members, or should we choose the members then decide what the PLC is going to be on?
I'm not going to answer that. That's up to you.
Okay.
Talk to your principal. A lot of it's you may be. I mean, it has to be your topic has to be something with student learning.
Okay.
I had the question, and I posted this on the discussion board. I don't know if everybody's seen it yet, about can it be PBIS and student discipline. And in this one, no, can't use that. However, whenever we do the CAP, I think that's the cultural advocacy and something plan. So that one in another semester, you'll be doing the behavior piece there. So you could use PBIS on that. So that's up to you as to how you set up your PLC.
Okay.
And guys, I apologize. I don't know why I had a lapse in my internet, so I rebooted my system. Everything seems to be working fine now. I moved back into the living room to be next to my router. So if that was the problem, hopefully that corrected that. And Tisha, that's some good questions that Dr. Church pointed out. It could go both ways. You could already talk to your principal, maybe have an idea of some things that needs to be addressed in the school, or you can pull the data out and the data tell you what needs to be addressed in the school. So good thing about this program is there's some avenues of instruction for you to follow, and definitely some roads that you need to travel down, but there also is a great degree of flexibility in this program, and that's to make it meaningful to you. If we gave you slot A goes into tab B in section 3 on page 245. Well, that might not be what's right for your school. The thing about this is, as I said, to make it meaningful to your school and give you the flexibility to look at the school, and whatever you do, you're not just doing it to get your licensure. You're not just doing it to get your grade, but you're actually doing something at your school which will give you invaluable experience, but also make a positive impact at your school. That's one of the main goals of this program is to create a situation where you can learn and gain experience, but also to have a positive impact at your school. Which if you develop something or take the lead on something, and it does have a positive impact, that's good on you, especially when you go around to do some interviews. I think Dr. Lamb said in his town hall meeting, gives you kind of a portfolio of look what I've done. So you need the flexibility to do that. We're going to move on, and once again, I apologize about the interruption. We talked about task 1 and task 2, and whenever you look at writing the narrative, and Dr. Church, thank you so much for filling in while I was out, of what does that narrative need to look at? I think Dr. Church has already told you about this last week, but I'm just scrolling down through the handbook. Is dig into these rubrics. The rubrics will tell you, it gives you some great information. These are your indicators and descriptors that's correlated to the school executive evaluation instrument. These are the prompts concerning the APSL, some sections that you want to address, and then of course we always shoot for accomplished, but to pass the program you have to score proficient or higher, and this gives you information of what needs to be included in that narrative to get to that point. So if once you write your narrative, if you go back and double check it, this is what I always use in giving feedback. Whatever you send me, I take that information and I go straight to the rubric. And I say, okay, is this piece there? Is that piece there? I don't necessarily work about, you're all professionals and you're all well-educated adults, or you wouldn't be in the program. And so as far as typos and, grammar and things like that, if I see it, I'll draw attention to it. But I think that you can handle that with your own proofing before it even gets to us. But we go straight to the rubric in task 1 and task 2. So as you begin to write that, go to the rubric and double check that. Okay, any questions at this point? Because I'm going to move on from task 1 and task 2.
Yeah, I've got a question.
Sure.
With task 1, I'm assuming the peer reviews, we're allowing them to kind of fine tune the paper for us. And then when the final draft comes into you, you're just going to be looking at the rubric to make sure that we've met the proficiency. And if we haven't, then you're going to let us know what we need to adjust. Is that correct? Okay,
everybody. I did not pay Nick to ask that question, but that is a perfect segue into what I was going into next. Nick, we have a process where it goes after, Dr. Church is there to guide you through the peer review process. Once it hits peer review and you revise based on the review you got from your peers, we do have a process of you getting it to me, and I give you feedback and get it ready to go to the next level, which is task stream, which is something we'll talk more about next week. So that's exactly what I was just getting ready to go over. So Nick, great job. You can move to the front of the class. When we go to recess, you can hold the door open, Nick. Good job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
You can be the line leader. Thank you. So, but before we move on, any other questions about task 1 and task 2? Because I will get into that next. Okay, groovy. All right, so let me see. I'm just going to look at a few things. Yeah, okay, I'm going to save that for a little bit later. I am going to pull up something that may look a little familiar to you. Let me pull that up first. I don't think I lost it a while ago, but I may have. I may have to. Okay. All right. I am going to get in at this point. I did lose it, so I'm going to have to go back inside. Can everybody see my Gardner Web Connect? Okay, I see heads nodding. Okay. If you'll notice now, of course, this is going to look a little different from yours, but this is where I get into my clinical internship shell. I looked earlier today, and the grade book and all of your names appear. So I'm assuming or anticipating that you have access to that now, and it should. I think Dr. Lamb went over it in his town hall meeting. If you get into your Web Connect and you go to New Blackboard, under your My Courses, you should see this MELS Clinical Internship Bullis tomorrow or this evening as you dig into that. If you do not see that, like I said, I did a quick scan, and I think everybody's names pulled up, which means that you've been enrolled in this particular 697 course is what it is, and that's your clinicals. So if for some reason you're not seeing that, probably won't be able to do anything about it tonight, but if you'll send me an email, we'll do that tomorrow. But I'm gonna get into this and show you a little bit, or go through it actually with you of what's in your clinical internship shell. Now, don't get confused. Dr. Church has a MELS 601 course shell that he works with you from. That's where you do the discussion boards, the peer review, the other assignments, and class discussions and what have you, as far as your course goes. Then you have this, and this is your clinical internship shell. His says Church beside of his. Mine will say Bullis. It'll look a lot alike, but I'm going to go ahead and pull that up and let you see what it looks like. And you may already have been in this, and if you have, that's great. You can play around in there. It's going to look a little bit different. There's some things that you won't see that I've blacked out. But this is where you will get feedback from me. This is where you will get feedback and a grade from me on your task. We won't do any discussion board conversations or any assignments along that nature. That's handled in your course. This is your internship. And I've got several things here. If you'll notice, and once again, I just show this to you to give you kind of a little bit of security, a little bit of extra resource on what as an example. But here are some templates, and I probably need to change that word. It's not a template, but here's a sample that you can look at of some of the evidences that you'll be going through, the ABSL, the APTL, and Dr. Church and Dr. Lamb may have already shared this with you, and your course shell, I don't know, but I have listed here some templates from you to look at. It does not mean that yours needs to look like this. It's just a sample and some information that I've used in the past with other students as far as setting up the narrative and what it looks like. Doesn't mean that you have to follow that. It's just another resource for you to look at, and it goes all the way through the SciApp that you can look at when you want to. I've also posted I have a 603 course that I deal with, so you'll have access to that too, but that's not anything that you need to access right now. You can certainly look at it if you want to. It's not going to do anything for you other than show you the schedule that I have with my other class. But the MELS 601 File 2018, that's just a place that I keep the Zoom schedule that Dr. Church and I established. It'll download it automatically. Also, video library. I keep all the videos that I share that we record, and probably that's a good point. I'm recording this now. The first part of tonight's webinar where we got the Interconnection Connect, there'll probably be 2 links for you. The first will probably be the first 10 minutes. We might have made it close to 30 minutes. And then there'll be another video that'll do that'll show what we're doing right now. So of course the internet interruption kind of split the recording, so they'll be here. I've already got I think there's some town hall meeting that happened Monday night that I need to post. I've got our meeting from last week posted. Here's a video that your clinical coach 1 probably shared with you. If they didn't, this is something you can go back and review on how to set up your competency folio. We'll talk more about that next time I'm with you. Don't, you know, if your CC1 should have done that with you right at this point. If not, that's okay. There's a video to show you how to set that up. We'll delve into that next week. Handbooks. I've got the scale handbook, your mentor handbook there as well. And I also have kind of just all the ABSL tasks. Let me pull those up. I believe you can see that as well right now. And that's just a rundown of the prompts for each of the ABSL tasks, just kind of real summarization of what the prompts are. Just another resource for you. I've used that in the past when I taught a class face-to-face. This was a handout. I just threw that in there. No extra charge to you, just to give you another artifact or another piece of documentation that you can look at just as another resource. All right, so let me move back into the internship shell. We got to handbooks. I showed you what was in there. Now I want to talk about the process that Nick kind of helped set the stage for this conversation with. If you'll notice, you'll see each of your evidences listed here. There's the ABSL, the APTL, that's 602, the OMA, 603, the SCIP, 604, and the CAP and the SIAP are kind of 605. If I remember correctly, I may have that a little bit. I believe that's correct. The CAP, it's either the SCIP and the CAP are in 604, and the SIAP is left by itself in 605, or the CAP and the SIAP are together in 605. I can't remember. We don't have to worry about that now anyway. Right now, I want to focus on the ABSL. If you'll notice, this link right here says ABSL Task for Review. Then there's a break in this little table of contents in the sidebar, and after that you'll see the ABSL evaluation drop box. So you have the ABSL task for review and then the ABSL evaluation drop box. Once you have gone through, got your narrative, your task one, and we'll talk about the task one right now. Once you've got task one in great shape, you've gone over, you've engaged your course mates, if you will, in the peer review. You've gotten feedback from them. They reviewed you, gave you some critical feedback on that task one, and you have made some revisions based on that feedback, and you feel like you got that task one in pretty good shape. You leave, well, let's just say you put your course shell with Dr. Church aside, and you access your internship shell with me. And I don't mean to sound elementary, but like I said, the more times you hear it and the simpler the terms I feel like I can put it in, the easier it is from you. By 602, this is all going to be second nature to you, and you'll go through it wide open, no problem. But you take that task one, once you've gotten review from your peers, once you've made revisions based on feedback, you take that task one as an individual document, you click on ABSL task for review. It's not for a grade, this is just for review. You click on there, and your ABSLs, you'll see that all the tasks are listed here. You go to task one, and this allows you to submit task one to me for feedback. So you take your task one, you click on that, it's a place for you to make comments and send it to me, and then you send it to me. I will take it at that point. I'll read through it based on the rubric, just like we talked about a while ago, Nick. I'll take the rubric, review your paper according to the rubric. And if you guys are familiar with Microsoft Word, let me pull this up real quick. I'm just going to pull this little task prompt up here real quick. But under View, you can go to View. I'm sorry, not View, Review. I can go to Review, and then I can make a comment. So I can, okay, if this is, I need to make a comment on this right here, I'll click there, comment, go over here on the side, and click in whatever. And that's where you'll find my feedback at. It'll be in the comments listed by these little bubbles here, these little dialogue bubbles in the side of your paper. So you can go through each one, and I may highlight a word, I may highlight a whole paragraph, I may highlight a sentence. But that's where I've left feedback about your different parts or pieces. Could be you knock it out of the park first time and you not see any dialogue bubbles. That's because you did a fantastic job, and I couldn't find anything to really suggest for improvement. And I may put that in there. I may put one bubble that says, no suggestions for improvement. I like this. This looks good. You did a particular good job with this. Blah, 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 blah. And you not have to do any revision. But that's where you need to look at from feedback from me. So you'll take that, you'll load through the bubbles, you'll address that in your version of the paper. Do not send it back to me with these bubbles, because that's just going to create confusion. You go to a clean version, the original version of your document, and make changes based on my feedback. Once you've got that done, okay, so you get peer review. You revise based on your peer review. You go to your internship shell. You click on Absol Task. You click on Task 1. You send that revised Task 1 to me for feedback. I give you feedback. You take that feedback and you revise it one more time, and then you send it to me again. This is just kind of like a process where you can get on here and you could submit it to me as many times as you want. At some point in time, maybe the second time, maybe the third time, at some point in time, I'm going to tell you, hey, you did a great job. This is good to go. You can submit this for grading. Submit this for a grade. So after we get finished with the review process, and I tell you, hey, that last version you sent me was right on it. Submit it for a grade. You take that version, and then you go back into the internship shell, and you come down here for Absol Evaluation Dropbox. In Task 1, you'll pull up Task 1, and you'll submit it there. That's just an assignment tab is basically what that is. So once I tell you submit for grading, you take it, and we go from review to evaluation. You submit it to me. I won't give you any more feedback at that point in time, but we need to have that process in place by which you receive several. It's kind of a tiered approach. Is you have different tiers of resources and different tiers of evaluation that get you to the point. By the time it gets here, there shouldn't be any other grade but 100. Because at that point it's ready to go. Once you get it there and you put it at the Dropbox, and then that's basically an automatic 100, because I'm not going to let you submit it to the Dropbox until you get it to that point. We'll work with it. This is where we do all the work in the review process. This is where we do all the work. And once we get it in good enough shape, I'm not going to let it go from this to the Dropbox until I know it's ready to go. And at that point in time, you drop it in there, you get a grade 100, and then you hold on to that Task 1 from now. Okay? Then you can move to Task 2. And it's the same process. When you get Task 2 in good shape and you made revisions based on your peer review, then you'll go into the internship shell, and you'll click on Absol Task for Review. You'll go to Absol Task 2. You'll submit that to me. I'll work with you. You may not need to revise it all. May be good to go from the very beginning. And I say, hey, go ahead and submit it now. This is great. Maybe second revision, third revision. I've gone through 5 revisions before. Once we get it in great shape and it's ready to make 100, then I'm going to tell you, drop it in to Dropbox. Drop it into the Evaluate Dropbox for grading. Now, have I had people get confused and drop it in here first? Yeah. And we'll work on that later. But before I will grade it, before it receives that 100, we have to engage in this process right here. All right, now I'm going to take a break right now. Are there any questions before I go on? Are there any questions on that process there? Because what we're doing here is we're getting this is the tiered level that we get it ready for task stream, which is the last piece of the puzzle that we'll go over next week. This is where we get your paper in good shape to submit to task stream. That's where your licensure process will occur. So by the time it gets there, it's going to be proficient or higher. I guarantee you, because I'm not going to let you get to that point unless it is. We already talked about this, but we've been in this game a long time. I know what it needs to look like to get you to that point. Okay, but do you have any questions at this point so far on the process that I mainly engage with you in?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Once we've done, I think is it two peer reviews where they check over it twice? We have them do it twice.
Yes, sir.
That's
my understanding. Dr. Church, is that?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and then after that, do we need to submit it to turn it in, or
No.
we just
No.
Okay.
Yeah, Nick, I'm sorry to cut you off. I didn't mean to cut you off on.
Oh, no, that's fine.
No, turn it in. Do not. I'm getting to that piece of the process as well, but you do not want to put anything and turn it in until I tell you to do so.
Okay.
Because what happens with turn it in, once you turn any document into turn it in, it archives that document. And what will happen is once Turn It In receives that document and puts it in its archives, if you put that same document back into Turn It In, then it's going to go from maybe – it's based on percentages of how many hits and how many, whether it was properly cited or not, and how much of your paper comes from different sources out there. So what will happen is you're going to – if you turn it in once – and then turn it in again, it's going to compare your paper to itself. So you're going to have a high percentage of, hey, this is exactly written like a paper that's already in our archives. So it's comparing it to itself. And if that happens by mistake, that's okay. We can deal with that, and I'll work you through that. But it'll save everybody a whole lot of trouble if you don't put it in, turn it in until I tell you to do so.
Okay.
Good question.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Kind of just picking back off what Nick was saying, and just to make sure for clarification, the two peer reviews that we get, when we have two different people that peer review our work, then we submit it, we make the corrections, and then is that it? Just those two people, or do we resubmit it again for another peer review by the same people?
My understanding is just once you do those two peer reviews and you make feedback, get feedback, all that, make revisions, you're not required to send it in again as far as a peer review goes. Is that correct, Dr. Church?
That's correct. My suggestion for that would be get together as a Zoom group and decide when you want to have those peer reviews submitted, and then go ahead and submit them and decide who's going to review whom's, and go ahead and do that, and then come together and as a group setting, and then just hit record like we're doing tonight, and just spend a day and spend an afternoon or an evening and do your peer reviews. Just take turns and do one recording, and then all of you save the link, and then there's you a link and your peer review form. And then for round two, just send it to somebody else in your group. Most of you have 4 people in your group. One group, group 2, has 5. Group 1 had 5, but one dropped yesterday. So that would be my suggestion. Just come together as a group, sit down, knock it out. And matter of fact, I'll put a sample on board here in just a minute. I'll upload a sample to to Blackboard here in just a minute.
Okay, great questions. Thank you, Dr. Church. I'm going to move on a little bit with the process unless there's any other questions.
Well, back to the peer review. It sounds like we're just going to meet and we're just going to discuss each other's papers, or are we supposed to go in and highlight things and say this probably needs to be changed, or what exactly go into that?
Both. You go in and you highlight it, and it needs to be changed. But then part of the process of the peer review is you looking somebody in the face and being able to tell them constructive criticism and how to sort of like a principal evaluation of a teacher. And so that's part of the reason for peer review, learning that process. Okay. So you would actually be doing both of those. Good question.
Okay. Any other questions about that?
Are we posting the links from our peer review to the Blackboard?
Yes.
I'm going to let Dr. Yeah.
When you submit your assignment, you will submit your peer review, a sample of your peer reviews. And then also when you do, you just attach a link with that as well, with the YouTube video, the YouTube link.
Okay.
James, you do not have to send that to me in any form during this process here when you're in the internship shell. I don't need to see those. So that's just for your course shell that you would do that.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so the peer reviews are due the week 3, and then it comes to you week 4, correct?
Yes, that's fine. You don't send anything to me until you have gone through that peer review process and made revisions based on that. That's kind of your first line of revisions and feedback is the peer review. Don't send it to me until you've had a chance to go through that process with the other people in your group. Then once you go through that, you make revisions based on that. Then you send me kind of I guess that may be considered the third draft of your task maybe after that.
And just to reiterate what we spoke about last week as well, we know that life happens. And if something comes up and you guys, you got 4 or 5 people trying to get together and schedule, if something happens in week 3 and you can't get there and you can't get that second peer review done, and it's going to be the beginning of week 4 to get that done, that is fine. We're not going to penalize you for that because we realize you're adults, you have families, you have a full-time job. That's okay. So if it runs just a little bit late, that's okay. We're not going to penalize you for it.
All right, good questions. Good questions. I'm going to open up the floor one more time before I move on.
Okay, one more question.
Okay.
So with the peer review, I know my group has already discussed we're going to meet next, I think it's Tuesday about 7:30. That'll be we'll be in week 3 then. So by the end of week 3, we need to have already had 2 peer reviews completed or just one?
If you can, that's going back to what we talked about a minute ago. If you can, that's moving really, really quick.
Okay.
And so if it takes you just a little bit, especially on this first one, if it takes you just a little bit longer, then that's okay. We'll work with you. Your other ones, as you do this will be your hardest one. After you do get the first one out of the way, then they all kind of follow the same process. So like I said, if it takes you a little bit this first time around, that's okay. We'll work with you.
So last question, just to clarify that, is are these peer reviews graded or are they just part of the process to complete our tasks?
They are. What I'll do is when you submit that, I will pull up and watch the peer review, make sure that you did them. Now the content of them, I want to make sure that you're doing professional work and that you're taking it seriously. And that would be the extent. Am I going to go through and look at every word that you say? No, but I will be. I will watch them.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, it's about 8:24, and I think about an hour of this is probably is probably enough. I can see your eyes twirling in your head, and to be honest with you, I think mine are too. So I'm going to hold off. We'll pick it up from here because that's basically anything past what we've talked about this evening is things that you'll engage later. Right now, the main thing is to look at that, is to get rolling with that task one, and kind of get in your mind how you're going to transfer your notes over to a narrative, and get involved in that peer review process. And that's really all you really need to know now. The things that I was going to go over next was just kind of give you a preview of things to come. Certainly not anything that you will need to know before next week. So we're gonna sign off at this point after we give you a chance to ask any more final questions. Okay, Dr. Church, is there anything that you want to finish up with?
I think we're good. I will find a Zoom session for peer reviews, and I will post it. Okay.
Great. Okay, just remember, this is probably tonight's Zoom session is probably going to come to you in 2 segments with 2 different links because of the internet interruption, and we'll just kind of pick it up right here next week. I hope you all have a safe week. I hope your family stay safe, and God bless you. Look forward to seeing you during the next session. Actually, sorry, hold on just a minute. Let me ask you a question. Let me pull up the schedule. Well, I had it up. Let me get it back up there. Actually, I am not scheduled to be with you again until the 26th. And Dr. Church, I certainly do not want to encroach upon your time. Would you guys like for me to come back next week as well, or just kind of hold off and let you get more grounded in the other items before we talk about anything else?
I'm fine either way. Whatever the group decides. Whatever they.
Tell you what, I'll join you next week, and if you need me, I'll be there. And if Dr. Church, if we have some time to kind of pick up from where I left off, we'll do that. If not, we'll just assist in any way we can.
All right, sounds good.
All right, great. Well, listen, I'm going to sign off at this point in time. I hope you all have a great week, and I guess we'll just all meet together, same bat time, same bat channel. Of course, most of you are too young to know what I'm talking about, but that's okay. All right, have a great week, guys, and take care.
Have a great week. See you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.